Hey, Empower Tribe. We are so excited that you're here. We are so excited to hopefully hear from Jordan Lee Dooley tonight. We've been all reading her book, Own Your Everyday, and it's such a great book. I hope you all loved it as much as I did. So I would love to hear some of your takeaways while we wait for Jordan to hop on. I've asked a few of you to share, a few of you that posted in our Facebook group to share with us some of your takeaways. So we'll just jump right into that until Jordan hops on. So Jessica Fox, I'm going to turn the time over to you. Are you ready? Okay. Share a few of your nugget, things that really stood out to you, your aha moments.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So the biggest nugget for me was when she talks about her husband's kind of failed football career and how they had to have this transition of what do you do now? Like everything you've put in your whole life, every blood, sweat, tears, money, time, your whole passion. And then okay, well that's over. And now in the mindset, there's this failure mindset. And so now what? And I've had that in my life where my whole life was wrapped around certain things and then it ended. And so I always viewed those as failures. And the way she talks about it is just it's a new chapter. Really blew my mind. And I've heard of the new chapter things, but just the way she talked about it really touched me and opened, made me really see it and view my own chapters as the ending of one chapter was the opening of the next chapter, and that I could not be where I am today or the person I am today without those previous chapters. And so that was my biggest
takeaway.
Yes, my huge big takeaway from that. And I've tried to think about other things that were so good from the book because I had so many other nuggets that I've written about and journaled. But this was so powerful for me because I've had so many of those chapters that have closed in my life that it was just really huge.
Yeah, that was. I loved hearing that story too because sometimes we put all our eggs in one basket and then it doesn't work out, and that's just life. But sometimes those are stepping stones to the next part of our adventure, to the next chapter. So thank you. I loved that. And guys, Jordan just hopped on. Are you there, Jordan?
I'm here. Hey.
There she is. Yay. We're so happy to see you. Jessica was just sharing one of her takeaways. And so let me just back up a little bit, you guys, and do a little intro for Jordan. And we'll go from there. So welcome, everyone. My name is Kelly France. I'm so excited to have Jordan Lee Dooley with us today. She's the author of Own Your Everyday, which is the book that we've all been reading in our EmpowHER book club this June. And you guys, her book is also a national bestseller. It's been named Best Book to Read to Be a Better Person in 2019 by Inc. magazine. And I agree. I thought it was so good. In fact, my mom said it was one of her favorites, and my mom has read a lot of personal development books. She hosts a top-rated She podcast, and her mission is to equip women with the tools they need to live purposely and reach their greatest potential. Jordan is often referred to as Jay, and she made up her own job title by referring to herself as multi-passionate authorpreneur, which I love. That's perfect. She is a 3 on the Enneagram, and she's happily married to her college sweetheart, Matt. They are business partners. They work side by side together at their farmhouse in Indiana, and they raise chickens in their free time. So welcome, Jordan. We're so glad you're here. Hang on, let me unmute you. It's not unmuting. There we go.
I fixed it. We're good.
Okay, good. So welcome. And before we dive in, I thought it would be really fun for you to hear some feedback from some of the ladies in our EmpowHER tribe. So I've asked just a couple girls to share some like 2-minute takeaways of their thoughts on the book. So Roxanne Sprague, are you here? Yes. Okay, go ahead. I unmuted you.
Hello, I'm totally fangirling here.
Hello, it's so nice to meet you.
Hi. So my biggest thing so I'm a mom of 3.
Okay.
And when I decided to become a stay-at-home mom, one of the biggest things that I struggled with was the purpose. It's like I kept going back to like, what am I going to do? And who am I going to be? And what am I really meant to do? And I've listened to a lot of books and a lot of personal development books, and nobody talks about purpose. So just the idea of the purpose not being what you do or your job description was like, wait, what?
Like, spoiler alert.
Right, but it was so cool, and it was really weird because right after I read that part, I had to like take a break and really process it. And that night I had a dream, and it was like just me going through life as this little ball of light and the impact I had on these different people. And it's silly, I know, but it was just like that, being your real, true, authentic self and that being your purpose. And it's just beautiful. And I just love the book so much.
That is amazing. Oh my gosh. It's so cool to hear another person that I actually don't know, but now I feel like I know you, to share that. That's really kind of the heart and the goal I found, like when I was writing it. I felt like, and even just thinking about when I wanted to write, I would get messages from women just like you and women in all different seasons of life kind of asking that same question, like, what's next? What's my thing? How do I find my purpose now? And I was like, maybe we're looking at this wrong. So I'm super encouraged to hear that that was your takeaway. That's awesome.
Yes. Thank you, Roxanne. And that was one of the things I loved, was the question you asked in the book for us to ask ourselves is, what's one thing I can do to bring heaven on earth today? I thought that was such a simple way to like really just kind of focus on a daily purpose. And it's so simple, but it could have such an impact. So I loved that as well. Okay, we have 2 more ladies. Kelly, are you there? If she's on.
She's muted, I think.
Okay, unmute yourself if you can. I'm trying to find all through the sea of people here.
I got it. It's
okay. Hi, Kelly.
Hi. So I was a little nervous. It's nice to meet you guys. This is actually my first book ever reading self-help wise. I've never much of reading that before, but actually I took a lot from it. And I think what I liked most was the 10-10-10 rule. I highlighted it 'cause, I would forget. And the decision making, when you see, I guess, focusing on things and how you would see something 10 minutes, 10 weeks, down the road. Because I'm a mom of 2, but I'm also a stepmom. So it's been a challenge. It's been 4 years, and it's been a huge challenge. And I have teenagers. I have 6 kids, and 5 of them are teenagers. So it's been crazy. And all boys, and just 1 girl, and then our youngest. And so I thought about it a lot and things I'm doing. And right now I've been a stay-at-home mom the past 4 years. And before that, I worked all the time. And I was a corrections officer. And then before that, it was a teacher. And so it's been a challenge. And like the other ladies with the purpose thing, that's where I was kind of at, like, what's my purpose? Where am I going? What am I doing? And so I've been trying to figure out what to do next. So I actually got into working out and being fit, and found I really liked that. And so I started becoming a fit beach body coach. I had just started that. So this is my new little, I guess, chapter in life that I'm starting, because I want to work. I miss working. I like being busy. My parents taught me to work, and we're definitely a very mixed group of people in our household. We're all multicultural and different religions, and so we're very just kind of on our own paths trying to figure everybody out. And I guess that's one of the main things like I really loved. And also like right at the end when you wrote for This Is For You, the whole like long little list, I highlight it and I read this like weekly because it's like, yeah, I get it. I don't know who I want, but I'm going somewhere. I might not be where I'm at, but I'm going to get there. And I do. I take that in every day. And also, you know, that's huge. But the very, you know, everyone tells you keep your eyes open. But I never once thought keep your heart, keep your mind open. I was like, really? I never thought about that. I really, you know, you grow up, you say always keep your eyes open, and your parents tell you that, or at least my mom did. And that I never thought about keeping your mind, your heart, just being open-minded with everything that happens in life, good and bad. Like I've definitely learned the yin and yang. You're gonna get good and you're gonna get bad and everything, and being more open-minded to that. But I do love that. Your book was it's amazing. It really did help me open my eyes a little bit, calm down in life. I don't need to feel like I need to tackle everything and just I need to learn that. But it's an amazing book. It really has helped me, and I definitely look forward to many more if you write more books. And I actually just joined your podcast the other day, so I haven't got to really check it out too much yet. But yeah, it's an amazing book. I love it. I even told my mom to read it because she's read millions of self-help books. And I was like, no, Mom, you need to read this book. She's like, really? And she did. She went out and bought it, but she hasn't read it yet. I'm like, you need to read it, Mom. Just read it. So she's going to be reading it.
That's
soon.
awesome.
So, of
Oh
course.
my gosh, how encouraging.
But I loved it.
Thank you, Kelly. And then one more, Nicole. Nicole, are you there? Nicole Farrell? I know she's here. I just got to unmute her and find her.
You're so good. No worries.
Oh, there you are. I see you. Let me see, Nicole. Okay, talk. Let me see if it's working. Okay, it's not working. Darn it. Maybe your sound is off. See if you can fix that, and we'll just move on. And if you get it fixed, just type below, and we'll turn the time over to you. But I just wanted you to hear, Jordan, from some of our readers. So many people love the books. There were many who posted and commented as well in our EmpowHER Facebook group that it really impacted them. And it impacted me too. I felt like it was kind of the perfect book that I needed to hear in my life at the time. So it was just like perfect timing for me to read, and really impacted my life, especially like the pressure to prove and the whole perfectionism thing. Those were powerful chapters for me. So we have lots of questions for you, and not a ton of time. So we're going to dive in. What do you believe, Jordan, is the most important step that women can take to build their confidence? Because that's kind of what our EmpowHER tribe is all about.
Yeah. You know, I think I often, when it comes to confidence, I often feel like I have a million things that I think about it, but I love this question because it really breaks it down to like, what's the most important step? And I love that word step because it's not like a leap. It's not like jumping across the ocean. It's just really, really simple. But I think the thing about steps is that they're small and simple, but often difficult to make, because it's that if I step here, am I not stepping here? Am I making the wrong decision, or am I, whatever. So when it comes to stepping into confidence, or one really important step, I think the best thing that I can say is I actually want to reiterate what I wrote in the book, which was incremental, implementable, imperfect action. And so when it comes to taking a step, it's what's the incremental step that you can take in the direction of something that's in here, that's on your heart. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to like figure out the whole roadmap. And I was actually just talking to a gal who kind of serves as like a very informal coach in my life. She's also a friend. And, she was talking to me today, and she was like, hey, look, just because I'm, of course, always thinking of what's the next thing and how are we going to, how do we build this? And I think when it comes to what we're building in our lives, I think it also applies to how we build our confidence. We don't just win confidence. We don't just grab it by, achieving something. I think it's actually something that we slowly build brick by brick when we take a little baby step in a direction that we really feel we need to take, in spite of maybe an expectation or someone else's opinion. So that was really, for me, just saying, break it down. You don't have to feel and just be confident all of a sudden. It's think about what's something that I can put into action based off of maybe experience or based off of, you know, passion or whatever, and really break it down to be incremental and something I can implement right now. Like I gave the example in the book, back in college, I was able to go get a canvas at Hobby Lobby, right? Or just right now. So that was really big for me, in that it's really small. It kind of seems like counterintuitive, but I think we often put a lot of pressure on ourselves to just become confident. Like the second we, you know, lose 10 pounds or gain this milestone or this achievement. And I actually think it's taking little bits of action before we have a certain guaranteed outcome, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I always tell like my kids and my team to start sloppy and start with a step. Just start with one little step. And I love that you mentioned in your book, you know, you can't expect to strike gold on your first try.
Yeah. Yep.
Like you're going to fail. You're going to fail forward, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, taking just like, and listening to your heart, like you said, because your heart's going to lead you where you need to go and closer to your purpose. So thank you. So what do you consider, what is different between an empowered woman and her counterpart? Like, what do you think the difference between someone who's empowered and someone who is not?
It's a good question. I think someone who's empowered sees other people. I think someone who's not empowered is so obsessed with how they could look, how they could fail, how they could mess up, what other people think of them. I've been that person a lot. And I think there's, you know what, I think sometimes I always try to be very realistic in how I think about being empowered, because I think on Tuesday I could be completely empowered, and the following Wednesday or the following Thursday, I might have a moment where I'm not very empowered. I'm not walking in confidence in what I know to be true. And so I think the difference is, for me, I think at first is coming from an attitude of servitude, from a place of confidence, from a place of not confidence in that I need to be seen and approved and applauded, but actually, like, I mean, I wrote about this in the book, like for me, my faith is huge, and knowing who I am in that outside of my accolades, that's when I'm most empowered. And then that's actually when I'm most equipped to see other people, when I'm most equipped to say, oh, you know what, I could celebrate her. Instead of worrying about what she might think of me, I'm going to talk to my sister and encourage her in something. And so I really think that an empowered person has this overflow of celebrating others as much as they can, because there's no need to prove, there's no need to compare, there's no need to really compete, because there's a deeper drive coming from a deeper why, if that makes sense. So I really tend to notice, like, I think a woman who's really confident in who she is and who God made her to be and where she's going, I really think she notices other people and she sees what she can celebrate in them and how she can actually support and help and empower them.
Yes, amen to that. It's kind of the difference between like trying to impress versus trying to inspire.
Yeah. Yep.
And you do. It's like you have moments where you're like, I'm trying to impress. I'm trying to, you know, put on this show, versus am I trying to inspire and help others and have that servitude attitude, which I love I love that you talk about in the book, because you don't hear a lot of people talking about that so often, and yet that's how I think you can really gain confidence and have a meaningful life. So if you could go back 3 to 5 years, what's the biggest lesson you've had to learn, and how did it help you?
So I actually have been saying this a lot recently because it's really impacted me. There was a guy I was listening to at a conference, and he said something that was really impactful. He said, look, when you try something, you're either going to get one of two things. You're either going to get the outcome you wanted or the lesson you needed. And
Ooh, I like that.
I think if I could go back a few years, there was a lot of things I wanted to try, but that I felt like I couldn't because I thought I was in this box or that box. I thought, oh, okay. I definitely tried a lot of things over the years, that's for sure. But there was still things that I put off and kicked down the road and just tried a bunch of other things that I felt like would be less, maybe not, I don't know if judged is the word, but like more acceptable or more, you know, in line with the box or label that I was in. And it got to a point where I actually had a friend tell me, I feel like there are buried dreams that are resurfacing. She just told me that about 8 to 10 months ago. And I knew exactly what she was talking about. But I had kind of, you know, for me, been very afraid to take action in that way, because I was like, well, what if I don't get the outcome I wanted? And what if people don't respond how I want them to, right? And that's kind of the risk that comes with choosing to try. And so I if I could go back a few years, I think I would tell myself, look, you're not going to fail at this. And even if somebody doesn't like it, even if this group of people unfollows you or doesn't approve, or your friends don't understand, right? There's been so many times, I mean, even just through what I do or what I've done over the years, I've had people feel like they don't really quite understand what I do. I've had, you know, family members ask, do you even work? You know, and for anybody who's an entrepreneur, they definitely know what that feels like. So, you know, I think in my experience, I loved how that quote was framed. I think it was by James Wedmore. He's a educator, but anyways, it was just, that's probably what I would go back and tell myself, because I probably would have taken action on some of the things I've really been longing to do a little bit sooner, instead of trying to pile all these other things on top to eventually, you almost have to undo a bunch of things. You know what I mean? So I hope that's helpful.
Oh, that was so helpful, because it's almost like freeing, like, okay, I can take this step and I'm only going to gain from it. Like, it's only going to, like, I'm only going to grow from it.
Right.
So I love that. What's one main message, like, that you really want women to glean from you?
You know, I think there is a lot of messaging in the world for women right now to go after the thing. Don't stop till you get to the top. And I'm here for it. I'm an Enneagram 3. I don't know if you know your Enneagram type. I'm an achiever. So I'm like, yes, let's do all the things right now. Let's get them done yesterday. I'm like, let's go.
You're talking my
I
language,
also
girl.
think, just like a couple gals were sharing, like, I think that also creates this pressure when you're in a transitional season of life, when you don't quite know even the thing you want to go after, right? And I felt like no one was speaking to the woman who was in that space. Like, no one was speaking to the girl who's like, I don't even really know what my dream is. I don't even know what my thing would be. I have unfigured out dreams. And so I think the message I really wanted to bring to women was, it's okay to be multi-passionate and to even go through seasons where you don't even know what your dream would be to pursue. Just continue to show up where you are and be willing to learn. And I think that's where sometimes those things are made clear to us. Just like, I think it was Kelly was sharing, is that Kelly was that second? Yeah. She was sharing just even about, like, I discovered I liked fitness and now I'm doing something with it. I think we don't allow ourselves that freedom to explore and experiment when we're not allowing ourselves to show up where we are, because we're so focused on figuring out the future, figuring out our dream, achieving a thing, because everyone else seems to have their thing figured out, right?
Right.
So I think that's been really my message, is I wanted to speak to that woman and kind of give the tools to show up where you are and learn what you might love to do in the next season, because life comes in phases. And I don't think we're told that enough. I think we're told, like, get your path, do your thing, figure it out, achieve. And it's like,
Totally.
Okay, but what if I'm in a season where I'm not able to, like, achieve because I'm having a baby, you know, or I just moved across the country, or because I'm trying to pay off debt, or, like, we often forget about the realities of life, I think, in some of our motivational messaging. And so I wanted to still bring a motivational message with a very practical approach and give the permission to, like, breathe a little in those seasons where you're in transition, or you don't quite know your thing, or you're just trying to figure it out.
Yes. And I feel like your last paragraph, I'm going to read it because it was so good in the book. Like, that last paragraph was like right there. It was, it said, you are a woman of purpose, uniquely chosen to change today's world. Stop trying to be fancy or measure up. Just show up and be faithful where you are with what you have. Don't let the pressure to prove get in the way, and watch what happens. Ready, set, own your everyday. So good. And I think, and that's your message that you're sharing. Yeah. So are there any resources that have really helped empower you on your journey? Any books or conferences or things that you have really learned from and grown from?
Do you have 4 days? You know, a couple things. I'll give a couple things just because it's a lot. But I would say one big thing is having mentors in my life. Spiritual, mental health, and professional mentors. Some include all of those. Really seeking those out, and I found them by going. Well, some are like built in, some are family members and things like that. But some I found by going to conferences and putting my phone away and being very intentional about having conversations at tables and really asking questions and being very coachable. So that's just one big piece of advice. I'm like, if you don't have a mentor, someone that you call as a go-to to help walk you through decision-making processes when it comes to what you're doing in your career or what next life decision you're going to make, get one. A couple other resources I think that have helped me. I have read a lot of Brendon Burchard's High Performance Habits. Have you read Every Good Endeavor? Have you ever heard of that book? Every Good
I have
Endeavor?
not.
Okay, so I've listened to most of it. My husband's an audiobook guy, so the majority of that has actually been on audiobooks, so as well as pretty much all the other books that I've listened to. But that's a really good one that I would recommend, and I actually want to go through and read it all the way through again because I feel like I've read it in pieces. But it really it's kind of, I don't think it's similar to my book, but the idea is like we do all these good things and we kind of have all these endeavors we go after, and it kind of challenges us to examine a little bit deeper and look at those things from a place of intention and remember. It kind of, I feel like in some ways aligns with my book. So that's been one I think that's been really impactful for me, especially as an achiever who always wants to take on the next good endeavor. It just helps realign, I think, my heart and my mindset with a healthy perspective. And then I really have been much more into the Enneagram lately, and I laugh at myself because I was the girl who was like, oh, it's trendy, we're not doing that. You know, I'm like, if everyone's doing it, I'm going the other direction. And if someone here has no idea what the Enneagram is, my husband describes it as if the horoscope and the Myers-Briggs had a baby.
That's perfect.
Like, I don't think that's the most accurate description. But I think what's been so helpful for me, and I actually had some friends that were really into it. We have a friend or a couple friends, or couple's friend. They're a couple and they're our friends. That's what I'm trying to say. But anyways, you know, they were really well educated on how to use it in relationship, how to use it in your own personal growth. And I was like, what does it just tell you a number? You know, it gives you a number and now we just have another label. I was a little bit against it for a while. And to some degree, I'm like, okay, again, you don't want to just use that as, oh, I do this because I'm a 4. You know, like I think we can also use that as an excuse.
Right.
But I think what's been really helpful with that is it's really helped me understand how I work, why I react the way that I do, and also how I do relationship, both with my husband, but also with coworkers, with colleagues, with partners in this space. I mean, I put myself out there a lot. And I think no matter what we do in our lives, whether you have a public career or not, when you are building a Beachbody business, when you are, you know, hosting a book club, when you're a teacher, when you are transitioning from stay-at-home mom to maybe next season of life, you know, or single to, okay, now I'm stepping into a career and kind of have, like, we go through all these things where we put ourselves out there. And I think if we can understand ourselves a little bit better, it's really, really helpful. And it helps us actually connect with those we can best impact. And so that's been a really, really helpful tool just for me in my life as well.
I know. I love personality quizzes, and for those of you guys that have no idea what she's talking about, it's an Enneagram. It's like a personality kind of tool to find out more about yourself, and it's spelled ENNEAGRAM. And so you guys will have to take it. It's really interesting. You'll learn a lot about yourself. And I think that
I've heard it described as like an internal GPS. Instead of telling you like your strengths and weaknesses, it's more like why you react the way that you do, what your key motivations are, what your deepest fear is. Like as this type of person, what drives you? And so it's more of like your internal why and a little bit more of an internal roadmap than like strength, weakness. So that's really helpful too. And I would actually suggest not taking the test, which seems counterintuitive. But we as humans sometimes will test a test, right? Like we'll take a test and we'll be like, this is the answer. Like you subconsciously, you're not actively doing it. Mm-hmm. But I think we subconsciously kind of begin to give the answers we would want to have or we would perceive to have. And so my husband, when he took the test, he got like a number that doesn't even align. And we were like, what? And so it's actually helpful to read, for example, a really good book to read if you're trying to figure out your Enneagram type is The Road Back to You. It's called The Road Back to You and The Path Between Us if you're married or in a relationship. Those two, that's how we really discovered my husband's. Mine was a little bit more obvious because I'm just straight up a 3. Like if my picture is like on the Enneagram. But some people it's not as obvious, or like a 9 kind of includes a lot of the different personalities. And so he's like, I'm this one. No, I'm this one. No, I'm this one. I mean, they all include little bits of each other, but the 9 is the hardest to kind of really figure out. And so if you take the test and it really doesn't seem accurate, it's actually really helpful to read the book, The Road Back to You, with someone that knows you and go through the descriptions of them and the explanations of the numbers and have someone like your husband or your daughter or your best friend kind of help listen in and be like, yep, that's 100% you. So it's just sometimes a more helpful way to really get to the bottom of it. But it's interesting.
Totally interesting. And yeah, it goes a little deeper in telling you why you do the things you do, which is a lot of personality quizzes don't do. So yeah, we're all going to need to look into that. All right. We probably have time for like one more question. So, oh, there's so many questions I want to ask you. Let's see. So you built your brand and your tribe on Instagram. Can you share like a couple tips with us about how to really build a brand and a community on that platform?
Yeah. I always say Instagram literally changed my life. I wouldn't be sitting here right now with y'all if it weren't for that little app. I have a love-hate relationship with it.
I think we all do.
We all do. But a couple things that I would share when it comes to if you're trying to grow at all on that platform for whatever you're doing. One is really think about how you reach a very, like I always say, niche down to blow up. So when I first started, I had a very specific niche. I mean, it kind of like was random, but then I niched it more, and then I've been able to go broader since then. But I still have a pretty strong focus in that I'm talking to women who feel like they're kind of in between, and they're multi-passionate, and they're trying to get to the next level or start their business or achieve that goal, but it's super confusing. So I think really get specific on who is your specific person and actually give her a name. A couple like tangible things that I would say is post about 12 times on your story a day, which is a lot for someone who doesn't use it that often. I know, but there's different ways to do that. And also I would always include 2 call to actions on a story within those 12. So whether that's a poll, whether that's a question, whether that's a DM me a response, whether that's a swipe up, whatever it is. I really have found that using stories strategically helps not only with growth but also with engagement. Another big thing that I would say is, and I actually invite you to do this. I don't know anybody who's actually like shared this out loud in this way, but for anybody who's watching or might have, you know, I guess what I would say is find someone like my account and 3 or 4 others similar that you think, okay, she has a lot of, you know, moms and new wives, and you know, if you find a couple of accounts that have probably some of your target audience in it, take 5 minutes a day go through organic and authentic, that's tangible, is to search 5 relevant hashtags. Find just 5 hashtags that are, so like, let's say for the Beachbody thing, this is just the one example I have for this group, so that's what I'm rolling with. And you're, you know, okay, I want to try to grow my Beachbody business. I want to use Instagram. I want to build a community there, not just an audience. I don't know if you've ever heard the comparison between Facebook and BuzzFeed, but Facebook and BuzzFeed were launched right around the same time. BuzzFeed's like $1 billion company, and Facebook is like a $1 kajillion company. And the reason for that is because Facebook is network based. We built Facebook. It's very much a community built program versus like an audience, you know, like article to consumer. So when you think of structuring your brand that way and building a network effect, the thing that helps in 2 ways, I guess, is the first tangible thing is find relevant hashtags that aren't actually, like if you're trying to help someone with their fitness, don't search mom fitness, if that makes sense, because that's basically like I guess what I'm trying to say is you want to search something more like stay at home mom, like someone who might be looking for fitness, but isn't necessarily like that's her whole focus right now. Right. Mm-hmm. So try to find like ways that it's within your target audience, but you're able to help solve a problem for her that she's not already like all on board with. So that I would say find 5 of those. And then comment or respond to 10 posts within that hashtag and do it for 5 hashtags. So you're really responding to 50 things daily or weekly, whatever you want to do. That's a way to connect and engage within that audience that's already there and showing that they're within your target audience. So that's huge. But when I was talking about the network effect thing, the reason I think those 2 things go together is it requires you to be engaged. Like gone are the days, I mean, it's not like impossible to go viral, but I think a lot of people are just depending on like, all right, we just got to like make the best piece of content ever. And you're just competing for so much noise. It's actually better to make that human to human connection without playing the follow unfollow game. So that's really, really big. And the last thing I would say when it comes to that network effect I was sharing, and something that I've done on my Instagram that has been so powerful, is really building in that tribe mentality by challenging the people who do follow me. Like, I think we all think we just need a bigger following. And it's like, but if you don't have like the buffet figured out and you don't have anything to serve them with, it's not really worth it. So how can you start serving the people who are already in the room, even if there's 100? Because I think sometimes we're like, oh, I only have 171 Instagram followers. It's like, if 171 people were at your house, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of people, right? So just remembering like that is a crowd to serve, and to show up there, just like I often talk about, showing up with where you are with what you have, is serving them well and challenging them. Hey, leave a comment and tell me what you do so I can come follow and support you, right? Things like that. It's like actually engaging and showing interest instead of saying, look at me, buy from me, you know, see what I have. It's more like, now let me celebrate you and let me see you, because then there's this two-way relationship going on, not only between the tribe leader and the tribe, but also then within the tribe. And there's all these connections that are made, and people feel so loyal to what you built because they found their friend, or they found their next client because somebody commented on their thing. So that has been so transformative for me, and it really creates, it also helps with your engagement, but it really creates this buy-in in a whole different way.
Yeah, and I think you're so good at that. I mean, you've even commented on some of our EmpowHER ladies posts, and you add so much value, and I think that's super important on Instagram, is, you know, adding value so that you have that servitude kind of approach. So,
and you can't do it all day long. Like, that's the one thing I would encourage. You can't just sit there and be like interacting with people all day long. But what I actually do, I've had 2 different ways I've done this. It's really helpful. And then I promise I'll stop with Instagram, but I'm kind of a nerd about this.
No, we love it.
So the first thing I would say is the way that I've done it before. I've had a friend tell me, be proactive in the morning and reactive in the afternoon. So the way that I've structured my days before, especially when it comes to social media is actually kind of a reactionary thing. Sometimes I'll plan my content in the mornings because that's proactive, but when you're responding, when you are kind of reacting to something someone did or tagged you in or posted or shared, that's a reactive activity. So thinking about how do you structure your days to where you time block, you know, okay, I'm going to take 20 minutes to do responsive activity in the afternoon to start my afternoon after lunch. That's a really good way to just do that daily without feeling like you have to do it, you know, hours and hours and hours. And the other way that I've done it is a half hour before lunch and a half hour before dinner. So basically the end of my morning and the end of my evening or afternoon of work. So that way it doesn't take over my entire day and I'm not on there constantly, but I'm still checking in consistently enough that I'm able to see the most recent messages and respond and see and go, yes, I'll get on Zoom. You know, it's like I'm being consistent and I have a little bit of a strategy as to how to make sure I'm checking in on the things that I've either flagged or noticed as important and can continue to I guess, engage with. So just having a little bit of a strategy like that helps you still show up consistently without Instagram taking over your life or whatever you're trying to build take over your life.
I'm so glad you shared that, because I was like, I don't even know how you find time, girl, to do that.
Yeah, I got a strategy. We have to have one.
So smart. Let's do one more question if you don't mind. So, what, I know you're always learning and growing and trying new things. What's been like your latest life lesson or aha moment that's kind of helping you grow personally right now?
Yeah, I actually recently wrote about this if you follow me on Instagram, speaking of Instagram, but I think the biggest thing is you can make so much progress. And I think we talk so much about the goal and the end game, and I made a lot of progress. For some reason in my adulthood, I started getting this hormonal acne on pretty much one side of my face. It was like all down here. I have makeup over it right now because there's a spotlight on me. But you know, I had this really weird breakout, and I think it was a combination of hormones, being in a different environment, travel, not sleeping well, not diet. Like I put way too much sugar and dairy in my diet, but I've been making a lot of progress because I was told by a doctor that this is an internal issue. It's hormonal and can be actually caused by sugar and dairy. Those were 2 things that were kind of starting to like cause a lot of inflammation for me. And it was super weird. I'm like, am I 16 again? Like, what is going on? But the reason that's so significant is because I made all these diet changes. I really started learning more about my body and trying to be more intentional, taking probiotics, you know, doing all the things, and made a lot of progress. I wasn't having any of that for almost an entire year. I had a little bit of scarring left, but nothing, you know, significant. And then we go on this trip and my face just decided to retaliate. It was like a rebellious teenager. And I think that was so frustrating. And it was, here's the thing, it was on the weekend of my brother-in-law's wedding. So I'm like, lovely, perfect, awesome,
right.
Perfect. And I'm a bridesmaid in the wedding. I wasn't just like a guest, okay? So I think it was one of those things where I was like, the timing is super inconvenient. This is very frustrating. It's painful. All of that. And so the lesson that came from that and that I shared about was, I think sometimes you can make all the progress in the world. You can make all the diet changes. You can eat all the kale. You can do all the things. You can, you know, hit the goals. You can, you know, grow your revenue, do everything you're chasing after and see so much progress, and you can still have a setback. No matter how disciplined you've been, you can still get into a season where you feel like, oh my gosh, I just took 3 steps backwards. And I think the biggest lesson there for me in that little experience was, am I going to let that, I mean, I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to like go outside without makeup on, but I had to because I needed to let it heal. And I think it was just a good reminder. And that simple little silly thing that really isn't the end of the world, but can be really not fun when it's your face or something people see, was just that you can't let a setback, all that was a setback. It wasn't that I was just not caring or not taking care of myself or anything. You can't let a setback hold you from living your life. And you can't let a setback or, you know, something happening that you don't really love cause you to hide, because I think we're really good at hiding, and we're really good at allowing things that just are nothing more than a little setback. We turn them into a massive failure. It's like, I didn't fail at my dieting, like, you know, cutting sugar out, or I didn't fail at everything. I just had a little setback. And I think if I could shift my mindset and start remembering, like, okay, we're taking a couple steps backwards, but we're going to celebrate the progress going forwards. I think that applies. That was such a good reminder to me of my own book, but also of, you know, the fact that it's a consistent growing. Like, I published this book and I wrote that chapter a long time ago, and I was like, we're past that, you know, like, we're good. And then, of course, a month and a half after it comes out, it's like, just kidding. And so, yeah, I think it's just a reminder that no matter how much progress you make, it still happens that sometimes you're going to have a setback, and just don't let the setback like hold you back in whatever you're chasing, whatever that goal is, whatever that thing is that you're trying to grow in, whether that's taking better care of your skin or, you know, losing or gaining weight. You know, I always feel like we always talk about losing weight. It's like, sometimes there's also like, I need to gain weight and be healthier, right? So I always try to say both of those things. But whatever that thing is that you are seeing progress in, don't forget the power of the progress you've made, even if you have a setback. That's been a huge lesson for me this week.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, it's like, don't let it be just, it's a detour, not a roadblock.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So.
Okay. So where can we get more of you? Where can everyone find you on Instagram and online besides reading your awesome book that we loved?
So I actually saw there was a question someone asked about the podcast, so I'm going to share that. The podcast is called She Podcast, SHE. Ironically, or for some reason, we've had really weird issues with iTunes recently. So if you just search She, for some reason it doesn't come up, even though it's a show. So just search my name, Jordan Lee Dooley, on the Apple Podcast app or Spotify or Stitcher. That's where you can listen to the podcast for anyone who was asking. I saw a question about that. And Instagram is Jordan Lee Dooley. We've got some really exciting things coming out later this fall that I can't disclose yet, but
ooh, we cannot wait.
Podcast, possibly some new coaching resources, but I can't get too specific yet, but I'm super excited.
Yeah, if you guys aren't following her on Instagram, you need to, because she's super inspiring and so down to earth. Thank you so much, Jordan, for joining us. It's been awesome. We have learned so much from you in just this short amount of time, and all throughout the month in our EmpowHER book club. So also thanks everyone for taking the time out of your busy day to hop on and listen, and we'll see you next month. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.